we have with us today our favorite CPA, our certified internal auditor, Crystal Howell, joining us this morning as Crystal takes a look at the very important topic of surviving for entrepreneurs. Survival right now is the word. It's been a brutal year, Crystal. I don't need to tell you that. So I'm sure that they're going to be sitting down, if they're at home right now, with their notepads and pens at the ready, because every bit of information helps. So morning to you, and
Morning.
and let's take a look at how we can help them to survive.
Well, everything you said is pretty much an understatement. This is
Yes.
unprecedented times, and I know I may not have all the answers, but I'm hoping that what I do share helps persons to be able to survive these very interesting times. So we will spend a lot of time talking about how individuals can manage through these difficult times. But now we're going to go into entrepreneurs because with 40% unemployment, I am sure this is what a lot of persons would have had to resort to be able to survive and manage through these very difficult times. But entrepreneurship is a very difficult path to take. And I don't say this lightly because many persons would have worked for a company where they would have been required to focus on their particular skill set. But when you get into entrepreneurship, as we've discussed throughout the year, there's so many different aspects to it that when you're in a company, you don't have to focus on. So if you are the person who bakes the cakes, you may not have to worry about marketing your business or worrying about the financial aspect and whether you have enough money coming in and if you're managing how it goes back out, having to worry about a website and all of these other things that persons don't tell you about when you go to being an entrepreneur. So I'm hoping that over the next few weeks that we be able to go through these things in details and help persons to take their small business venture into a much larger enterprise. And we'll start with a few definitions because many persons may not even understand where they fit in the grand scheme of things.
True.
And some of these statistics, yes, they will be Canadian based because that's the basis for the CPA's instructions, but many of them apply to a Barbadian landscape. And even in terms of the tax structure and everything else, when you define what a small business is, it's usually between 1 and 99 employees. So you'll be able to get a feel that for many persons in Barbados, your business is really a small enterprise, especially for those persons who only have a few employees. But then as you look to grow, you will see that between 100 to 500 employees is seen as a medium and over 500 is seen as large. So you'll be able to get to see even where you stand on an international scale where your business is concerned. When we're looking at growth now, growth is what you want to be focusing on so that your business can go from the small enterprise into a medium or a large one. So the first thing to make sure is to don't take on a large expansion until you are ready. You have to make sure that you are managing your business at that size first before you can look to expand. And a lot of persons try to grab and bite big, as they just say, but then they're not able to manage the amount of customers that may come in and everything else. And then the business gets a bad reputation. So
Right.
if you are bursting at the seams where you have so much business, which believe it or not, there are some persons in today, even in today's times, I'm convinced that they must be bursting at the seams because they're not effectively managing the customers that they presently have. They are slow in response to customer queries. The customer experience leaves a lot to be desired. And they will set times that they will meet for customers and then they either don't show up and don't make a call ahead of time or they always have to be rescheduling. So it leaves me with the impression that either you have too much business going on, even in the, or you're not managing your existing customer base adequately because you're trying too much to get to new customers and taking your existing customers for granted.
Yeah, and that is
So,
a big no-no. And I think that that is also something that I find businesses, no matter the size, are really and truthfully guilty of here on island. You know, that customer base you have is very important, and you have to maintain the base. If not, you know, these are days when people will move. They'll
yep.
shift their loyalties and go somewhere else.
And
Yeah.
I would have thought in these times people would have been more focused on making sure they keep the relationships that they have intact. But I've found even in some cases it's been the opposite, which is honestly very surprising to me that persons would be taking that attitude in these times. So I just want to really remind persons sometimes it's not even having to find something new, but just to improve the customer experience for your existing persons. It's not difficult. If you have to cancel an appointment, please call the customer ahead of time and let them know instead of having them sitting there wondering what's going on. That's something very simple. You don't need a lot of financial experience to do that or financial business savvy. It's honestly common courtesy.
Quite. Yes. So
So yeah,
I just
go
learned
ahead.
something. I just learned something because I realized that quite a few businesses I thought were large were really medium or small. So I wonder if they realize that as well. So, you know,
Yeah.
continue.
And size isn't the only factor, but we'll get into some of the other factors as we go through, especially from a Barbadian perspective. So you want to make sure that you or your employees have the skills at the operational or administrative level, as we would have mentioned before, especially when it comes to selling and marketing, because that's how you're going to get your business out there. And if you don't have these skills personally, that's okay, because in these times, there are persons who literally their entire form and mode of business is to do these things for small businesses. And I would have encountered, even in doing some of the entrepreneurship workshops that I've been getting into, there are businesses out there. You can just look for them on social media, for example, Rampapi and other enterprises that will manage the sales and marketing, the social media, or getting everything done for you advertising wise, all without you having to worry about it. You just give them the content and you sit down, you do your interviews, you give them an idea of what it is that you would like to have your business looking like, and they will take care of everything else for you. So it's just a matter of going out there and doing that homework and looking to see where it fits within your budget. Because obviously, if you are managing by yourself and you're struggling, you will have to do that on your own. But it doesn't even mean that you have to do it blindly. There are things on the internet. I use YouTube all the time. I use Instagram to learn and not just for entertainment, to be able to
Exactly.
see what other persons are doing. So there are Instagram sites or profiles, sorry, for example, that would have a layout that I like and I think is pleasing to the eye, and I see that their customer base is growing, and you can try to mirror them so that you can, at the very least, until you can have someone manage it for you, try to see what it is that they're doing, what times they're posting, how their photos look, how the captions are, so that you can see what kind of engagement they involve themselves in. And you can use the business profile for many of these social media tools to be able to get the insight as to how your page is performing. You can use promotions so that you can push your business even further. Sometimes as little as 10 US dollars can help you to be able to promote your business, and you can see the difference between when you try to do it organically versus when you actually put a little bit of money behind these promotions.
You know, coming from an advertising base many years ago, one of the things we never quite got was that how Barbados stood out. That in times of crisis, advertising always then went through the window. It's one of the few places in the world that happened. Everybody else would boost their advertising to get their brand out. Barbados, nah, pull it back. spending, never made sense. But now in these days, you need to get out there. You need to, so training and especially learning about marketing and learning about sales. And if you're not
Only
good
way
at
you're gonna
that,
get your business out there.
exactly, putting it into somebody else's hands, and I'm paying just a little to get back a lot. These are ways that now you think outside the box when there's no longer a box.
Yeah,
So that's basically how it is. Thank you, Crystal.
no
Thank you. And
problem.
looking forward to the following weeks as we take a look at survival and especially for entrepreneurs.